All right, hi. Welcome to a Yin video today. Full up Yin, we are going from working the connective tissue from our feet on up. But before we get started, first of all, I want to say hi, Jill, and I want us to find a comfortable seat. So as I've said throughout the other videos that I have recorded, sitting in a cross-legged position isn't necessarily the most comfortable for everyone. I have my blanket folded and then doubled up, trying to get my knees at least slightly lower than my hips. That might mean you sit on a block. If it's uncomfortable, sit in a chair. Feel your feet firmly planted down. The thing is our spine, right? So settle into a comfortable seated position. I just want you to take a few nice deep breaths. My suggestion, as always, it's a suggestion, is going to be to take a deep breath in through the nose. Suspend it for a moment, open mouth, exhale. Let it all go, suspend it out. Let's do it a few more times. Deep inhale. Suspend, exhale. 2 more times, please. Inhale. Let it go. 1 more time. Inhale. Suspend it in. Exhale. Suspend it out. Now with your eyes closed, just allow your breath to just be a normal pace. Just let it be flowing in, flowing out. For a few breaths here, trying to relax the muscles of our face, drop our shoulders down, really soften through your eyelids, your mouth, your tongue falls away from the roof of your mouth, soften your jaw, maybe even the lips slightly part a little bit, adding a little bit more relaxation. All right, I do want to do just a little robin's egg breath here. So taking our hands into our heart center, palms gently touching. Take an inhale, fill up. With your exhale, I'd like you to press your hands forward, round in, gently tuck your chin to your chest, fully exhale. On the inhale, let's open up. Expand your wings, lift your heart up. Maybe let your head ease back. On the exhale, round back in. And sitting with a neutral spine, inhale, hands to our heart center. Let's just do that one more time. Fill up. Exhale out, push your hands forward, gently round in. On an inhalation, spread open, lift your heart. And on an exhale, round back in. And slowly back in, hands at heart center. Just a little bit of movement. Let's take an open twist. Sweep your left arm behind you. Right hand stays on your thigh. Inhale. Exhale, very gently twist. Come back to center. Other side. Left hands to left knee. Sweep your right hand behind. Deep inhale. Exhale, gently twist. Coming back to center again. Just taking a few deep breaths on your own. So today we are going to start with the lovely toe squat. So what I'm going to ask you to do is turn your toes facing forward. I definitely enjoy the cushion for my knees. So again, your toes are going to be facing forward, right? So I personally like to just very gently settle into this. I like to keep my hands down, maybe let my head relax, offer up some movement here, maybe rocking your hips side to side. We want to really try to stretch through all that lovely connective tissue in the soles of our feet. So again, you might be kind of surprised at first. Maybe your toes are just really stiff and they're just straight up and down. And so if that's the case, that's fine. You don't want to force it. You want to just slowly let the joint systems of your toes open up to you. It's not about maybe sitting upright. That's not it. In fact, I really like to be kind of forward, hands planted, so I can shift and move a little bit. And like I said, you can drop your head down. Now you've got about another minute here. You can always just relax out of it. You can soften back into it. Within any practice, it's important to note that we never want to move towards pain. So if this is becoming painful, and only you know if it's becoming painful, I'd like you to back out. Practice makes practice. Over time, this becomes, all postures become just delightfully delicious, is what I like to say. So you've got about 30 more seconds to play around with it. You can relax all the way down here. You can sit all the way up. It is entirely up to you. Let's take at least 2 more deep breaths at your pace. When you're done taking those 2 breaths, I want you to very slowly shift yourself forward and allow one foot to relax down and then the other. And really pause. Feel that rebound effect. Maybe there's some warmth, tingling, heat in the toes, into the soles of your feet. If you're so inclined to increase the blood flow, go ahead and smack your toes on your mat. Now, you've also compressed the fronts of your ankles, so if you would like, you can go ahead and lean back. Very gently lift your knees up and just stretch through the tops of your ankles. It's not good for you, don't do it. Here's the thing, next posture is hero's pose. So that is sitting hips to heels. And for a lot of us, this is a big stretch on the fronts of our ankles that probably never get that particular stretch. So this also is very compressive on the knee joints. So maybe you've assumed the position. You can keep your knees together, you can separate them. We want to try and keep our heels up so we're not kind of rolling to the outer edges of our feet. So again, I'm giving you options as we move through this time frame. You might really enjoy placing a block to sit on, or maybe it is a blanket just to kind of open up those knee joints a little bit. When I put the blanket here, I'm not really feeling it in my ankles, and that's really ankles and knees, right? We're working from the bottom up. Ankles and knees are the target area. So I would prefer to sit on a blanket, just feel that cushion. It's a little bit more comfortable, and compressing the knee joints and stretching through the tops of our ankles. So again, never feel like you have to stay in these postures. You can always come out of them and ease back into them. Speaking from somebody who has had a knee surgery, it can take a while to get to a place where you really feel comfortable in a compressive situation of the knee joints. As you move through this, you've got about another minute or so to play around with it. In our culture, we do not normally sit like this. So it takes, I think I'm constantly a broken record, but oh well. It takes a constant patience, compassion, consistency for yourself. So you have another 45 seconds or so. If you are still in this posture, maybe closing those beautiful eyes, softening all the muscles of your face, the subtle areas of fingers, shoulders dropping down, chest stays open. All right, please take 2 more nice deep breaths. As always, your pace. All right, so the spaces in between are so important. I'm just making suggestions. A suggestion of mine might be to come forward and ever so slowly extend one leg back behind you. Maybe put the toes down and stretch ever so gently your heel, or press back through your heel. I like to let my head relax. We're releasing that compression on our knee joint, so when you're ready, switch sides, and that generates more fluidity in the joint systems, more blood flow. Okay, so let's go ahead and just bring our legs out in front of us for just a moment and just, just shake them out. You can always rub the knee joints. That can feel kind of good, because surprisingly they might feel maybe a little bit achy, especially if you haven't worked into those joint systems very often, if at all. So here we go. Half saddle pose is where we're going to start. I'm going to take and put the blanket on my left side, and I'm going to tuck my right leg back behind me. The reason the blanket's on my left side is to scoot it underneath that hip area, just to level off my hips. There are a plethora of ways to use props behind you, and again, it doesn't have to be specific yoga props. You can roll up a blanket behind you. If you do have a bolster, again, it can be a nice long blanket behind you, tucked in at your hips, supporting your low back, and we lie back and open up through our chest. I personally like to plant my left foot, lift my hips up and just bring them into a more neutral position. And you can keep your left leg extended. You can swing it out to the side. I like to plant my foot and let my leg just fall out to the side. So the function here is that stretch on the hip flexors into the quadriceps. But of course, now you're also getting the knee compression. I like my foot straight back. Some people like their foot hooked out to the side. That is not my cup of tea. Now, go ahead and assume the position, but I'm gonna have to say this. If you are thinking to yourself, that is not for me today, the function is the quads and the hip flexors. So if it is not your thing today, I'm going to suggest a lunge and bringing a blanket to cushion that right knee. Bring your left foot forward and come into a lunge. I like the use of blocks. I should scoot back just a little bit. I like the use of blocks. We're working with gravity in two very different ways here. So I've started the timer, and I want you to really figure out which one works best for you. Because again, it really is about the target area. And yes, there are other postures, but I spend the entire time giving every variation. We are going to be here for a couple of hours. So I'd like you just to see if a lunge works better for you. Again, it's left leg forward, right leg back. Or if you are in that half saddle pose, it is your right leg back or knee bent and easing on back. So you're taking whichever posture you would like if you have not already. And again, you're working with gravity in very different ways here. Close your eyes. You are in complete control as far as what works best for your joint systems, your body. We never ever move towards pain. And as always in that half saddle pose, if your knee happens to be floating, your right knee, you can always tuck a block underneath that knee, or maybe it's a blanket rolled up just to support the joint. So the muscles that come in to the joint system can relax, and you can relax. You have at least another minute. Breathe long, slow, and deep. The deeper the breath, the more we bring our calming nervous system on board, and the more we benefit our lymphatic system, which is only stimulated via your breath and your movement. So for right now, you're being still for the next 30-ish seconds. Breathe even deeper. Now, as we are going to in just a moment ease out of this posture, if by chance you are in that lunge position, I would like you to move as slowly as you possibly can to gently push your hips back, coming into perhaps a counter posture of just bowing over your extended left leg. If you are in that half saddle pose, you are going to want to slowly sit up enough to very gently straighten out your right leg. Whichever release you have taken, just pause. Try to be perfectly still. Now we can stimulate a little bit of blood flow here. If you want to tense all the muscles of your legs and your feet and relax. And maybe tense up a little bit and relax. And then I'd like you to switch to the other side. So again, left leg eases back and you start to very slowly. So if I start to go back, I'm already feeling a stretch here and a compression on my low back. I'm going to stay right here. I'm not going to concern myself with laying all the way back. Same thing if you are choosing to come into that lunge as you assume your position and I start the timer. Same thing. I'm going to just slowly start to sink my hips down. This is why I really enjoy some sort of props here, because as I start to sink my hips, I feel a stretch right here. I'm going to stay right here until that eases away or gives me permission to move forward. If it doesn't, I'm staying right here. If it does, maybe I sink down a little bit more or I lower my blocks down. So, you've got plenty of time, still at least another 2.5 minutes. Your hip flexors are incredible. They truly are. They connect the upper half of your body to the lower half of your body. One of your quadriceps does act as a hip flexor, and so I can't emphasize enough that only you know. You can move towards a little bit of a pretty intense stretch, maybe a slight discomfort, but never towards pain. And you kind of already know pain, right? If you are clenching your jaw, if you're furrowing your brow, if you can't just take that, okay. My suggestion is going to be for the next 1.5 minutes is for you to decide. Maybe you're really feeling it in your left thigh right now. You might be feeling it up higher, and perhaps you're feeling it in your back. But wherever you're feeling it, I want you to close your eyes and breathe into that space. Because where your attention goes, prana, chi, your life force goes, however you wish to term it. But if your eyes are closed and you're way off your mat in your thought process, that's where your life force is going, is to whatever that thought process is. So, again, you have about another 45 seconds. I want you to decide for yourself. Is the posture still serving you, or are you forcing yourself to stay in the posture? You are your own best teacher. You know best. All right, take one more deep breath here, and then as slowly as you can, come out of your posture, whether it is easing your hips back from the lunge or slowly sitting up enough to extend your left leg long. If you're leaning back on your hands for a moment and just resting and feeling rather than doing. Okay, you shake those legs out a little bit, again, creating a little more blood flow. By the way, our joint systems don't have their own blood supply, so we have to create that blood supply. Okay, so we're gonna come into, I'm gonna go for an inner thigh stretch right now, simply because a lot of what have been doing, or some of what we have been doing, is knee compression, so I thought maybe we would let that go for a little bit. So, wide leg, seated forward fold. Now, I'm going to give a couple of options, and then I'm going to verbally give a couple more, because inner thigh groin area is an area where a lot of us hold tensions, both emotional and physical tensions, and we don't spend a lot of time stretching those muscles and stretching into that connective tissue. So, butterfly pose, sitting on the edge of a blanket, scooting your sits bones back. Some of us might really like blocks to support our outer thighs. I personally like a block to relax my head on and slowly come down. Now, this might be an extremely lovely inner thigh stretch for you, or you might really like to choose a wide leg seated forward fold. Bringing the legs out wide, scooting the sits bones back. Again, here is where a bolster can be quite lovely to create. All you're doing is bringing the floor up higher to you. So you might choose some support underneath that bolster, again, just to lift the floor up, because we don't need to make these postures intense, intense, intense. And you slowly can relax down. If by chance you're choosing this posture and your head is to one side, I'll let you know when we're halfway through, so you can switch your head to the other side. So go ahead and choose one of those postures while I go ahead and cue, because maybe those are just not for you today. You can come into lying down butterfly and lie back, feet together, knees apart. Maybe this is your inner thigh stretch. Just for time's sake, I'm not going to demonstrate legs up the wall, legs open, but that is another beautiful inner thigh stretch, is to scoot towards a wall, your tush is against the wall, legs fall open. So we've been 30 seconds. You do have a little bit more time here. Please do not move. I think personally this is a posture that can really go real intense real quick. So always feel, if you've got the blocks on your outer thighs and maybe the inner thighs start to relax, you can move those blocks out of your way. On the flip side of that, if you don't have blocks and you're like, wow, this is becoming a little too much, put those blocks underneath your outer thighs for some support. So breathe, slow, deep. Maybe you offer up a nice long open mouth, sigh it out, exhale. Maybe you feel, especially during this practice of a little more stillness, you feel that exhale lengthening out longer than the inhale. Just giving you a reminder of the time. You are a little over halfway through. So if your head is to one side and you want to ever so slowly rotate your neck to the other side, you've got the time. please take it. Even that beautiful cervical rotation is working the deeper muscles attached to the spine and a little more of the superficial muscles. You've got a lot going on in your neck, so please be mindful of that area as well. Breathing long, slow, and deep. Now that you have the time in this posture, where can you feel yourself relaxing a little bit more? Can you feel the muscles of the inner thighs soften? You even feel your low back relax. Breathing deep. All right, one more deep breath, please. And again, take your time. The way I like to cue this is you want to use your hands to bring your legs back together. So literally picking up a leg and bringing it in, and support yourself, right? Not trying to really utilize those inner thigh muscles to pull your legs back together. Help yourself out. And again, close your eyes whether you are laying back still or seated or against the wall. Just please take a nice deep pause in stillness. Again, you might spend some time moving your toes, moving your ankles. Before we move into this next posture, which is probably going to create again some knee compression, outer thigh area. So a lot of people's favorite, we'll go ahead and start with the right leg, is what's in Yin called swan pose. Right leg forward, left leg back. I personally like to keep a blanket because it just cushions my back knee. And here's the thing, you're going to have 4 minutes. So if you're in this posture, maybe you stay upright for a moment. This is a little bit of a back bend. You can wiggle out those toes, and you might slowly, over time, start to come forward. Again, for me, I get a little bit better stretch if I move over to the left. Nothing says you gotta bow straight forward. If you're thinking, this isn't my posture, you can go ahead and lie back. I'm gonna move to the side here. So lying back, planting your left foot, cross your right ankle over. I'm gonna use my feet to bring, so some of us like a block underneath that left foot and cross your right ankle over. Maybe this is your stretch for today. Otherwise, you can take your right hand in between your legs, grasp your left hand behind your knee or on top of your shin. If you're against a wall, you can plant that left foot directly on the wall. You just want to make sure in either of these lying down postures that your low back is comfortable and it's down rather than lifting up off of the floor. So again, assume whichever posture works for you. And again, for time's sake, those are the options I'm going to give. Some of you who are familiar with Yin definitely know other postures, shoelace pose or square pose. You've got time. So whichever posture you've chosen, I'm still going to give you a little cueing of time. If by chance you're in the swan pose and you're staying upright, relax your spine. You can stay strong for a little bit, but then eventually just kind of let things soften. Let that back leg soften. Your back leg in this posture does not have to be perfectly straight. It can be off to the side. If that is giving you the outer hip stretch, outer right hip stretch, cool, that's perfect. Nothing says you've got to be perfectly straightforward and your hips perfectly level and your back leg perfectly straight. So, where can you feel yourself settling so you can really send your attention, with hopefully your eyes closed, over into that outer right hip area? I will often get this in class. Well, my front leg starts to become numb, and that is very understandable, especially if you don't do this posture very often. Nerves get compressed and stuck. Sometimes even compressed and kind of like overly stretched within the connective tissue. And that goes away over time. But again, it's got to take our patience with ourselves, our consistency with our practice, and just give yourself time. And so you are just now halfway through this posture. Maybe you've already just really softened into it. But again, just that gentle reminder that yin, these postures, effective, you're feeling it in the target area, outer right hip. You might be feeling it in other areas too. If I stay upright, I'm feeling it on my left hip flexors. Ineffective, not feeling it at all. So maybe you kind of shift over to the left, or you move over to the right, or you lower all the way down, whatever it is. Or injurious. And that is not where we want to go. And only you know what you're feeling, the sensations that you're feeling. So you have about another 45 seconds. All right, I would like you to take one more nice deep breath, please. And again here, if you're on your back and your left foot's on the wall, maybe you just extend both of your legs up. If you're on your back and you're not against the wall, you can just extend your legs up, or maybe just stretch them out long. If you're in this swan pose, I know there are a lot of ways to release. I like to slow press my right leg back to release that compression. And again, put the ball of my foot down and stretch back through my heel. Some of you might like to come into a down dog. Totally fine. Some of you on your back might be hugging your knees into your chest. Again, all I ask is you find at least a couple of breaths where you are completely still. And then I would like you to very slowly make your way to the other side. I think there are a lot of people that really like this posture, and so they go from right, bringing their left leg forward, right down to the floor. And that's totally fine if you do that. All I'm asking is just to play around with it a little bit. Shift and move, perhaps stay upright, and just see where you feel it. The movements that you make, you shift over to the left and it takes you out of the stretch. Shift over to the right, see what that feels like. Even if you're on your back, same thing. And then you can just settle in. But we need to get out of the mindset of what a lot of us feel about yoga. I talk to enough people where the terms, yeah, I really should try that, or I'm afraid to try that, or I don't feel, my favorite is, I'm not flexible enough for it. And a lot of times really, and I would say maybe most particularly the yin, the style we're doing here, is we're really looking for more range of motion. We can become very, very sedentary. A lot of us are sitting throughout our day, too much time in front of a screen, too much time perhaps in a car, and we are becoming very, the term I like to use is very stuck. And that is what happens in our connective tissue. It becomes drier, it becomes tighter, and just kind of really becomes sticky. And so you're a little over halfway through in this posture, just giving you again a time reference. And when we let ourselves be in these postures, we do create more fluidity within the connective tissue, definitely less stuckness, and better range of motion. And isn't that kind of what we want? To be able to move throughout our day with a little bit more fluidity, definitely less or no pain. And that's why, yoga in itself is amazing, but Yin Yoga just really directly targeting our joint systems and our connective tissue. And it's kind of amazing. So again, here, as I tell you, you have about 45 seconds left. Where are you in your journey? Is it enough? Is it becoming just like, wow, I really need to leave this posture now? Then do. If you have a few more breaths to sink a little deeper into the posture, relax a little bit more. Cool. Only you know, and there's absolutely no point in being hard, judgmental, and critical of yourself. It doesn't serve us at all. So please, please allow yourself one more nice deep breath. And a slow motion release. We are going to meet briefly in a seated position. So again, take your rebound, take your release, and pause, please. Okay. So my seated position is just going to be in hero's pose. You can choose to come into whatever seated position works for you. I'm going to cue Sphinx pose. For those of you that are familiar, this posture is primarily targeting your lumbar curve, your low back. So I know as when I get to be with a group, I will often say in this posture that some people really enjoy full saddle pose, specifically targeting, that one targets all joint systems, but, well, primarily a lot of the joint systems, but today I'm just going to cue Sphinx pose, but if you are going into full saddle pose, please feel free. I'm not going to cue that one today. So Sphinx pose, I really like a blanket. I like to keep some blocks handy and perhaps a bolster back behind me. So I'm going to come onto my elbows, extend back, so my lower legs are on the bolster. And then a block, I really prefer for my head, targeting the lumbar curve. So some people really like to be here. And this is, it's emphasizing that curve in the lumbar spine. Some people like to be in seal pose. If you come up into seal pose, you want to relax your spine. So that might mean your head's hanging out in your upper trapezius muscles or relaxing down. I personally today am going to be on my elbows and I'm going to have a block to rest my head on. Now you can take your legs nice and wide, bend your knees and let your feet rest together and potentially rest your head on a block. Your choice. And I think one of the neat things as I start our timer about this posture is there's a difference between compression in those lumbar vertebrae and pinching. And pinching is not what we're going for here. We're going for compression. So if you're really not feeling it in your low back today, then maybe you do come up a little bit higher or double up your blanket and come up a little bit higher. You gotta kind of play with it. So feel free to play with it. In other words, it doesn't have to be like you got yourself into a posture and you're like, well, now I have to stay here because I got myself here. Today I kind of feel like doubling up the blanket because the blocks are too much, but I definitely am going to rest my head on a block. And the beauty about resting your head on a block is finding all those pressure points along the brow line and your forehead. So I might take my brow line just on the edge of that block and roll slowly side to side. Maybe find a couple points there on the brow line that actually hurt, and maybe you stay there and you release the tension from that pressure point and then move to another pressure point and another pressure point. We have so many points that we hold stress in our face. It's just incredible how we really don't pay attention to the muscles of our face and put that smile on our lips and soften in between the eyebrows and relax the eyelids. You have at least another minute. You decide for yourself. If it's too much, being in Sphinx pose, you can bring your elbows out in front of you a little bit more. And you're like, all right, that's where I want to be right now. And maybe head relaxing down. The last thing I want is I never want somebody to feel like, well, eventually I gotta press all the way up and come into this seal pose. Interestingly enough, we all have different spacing along our spine. And, what makes sense to me, might not make sense to you, is, somebody who's 5'3" and someone who's 6'5", we have the same number of vertebrae, but our bone structure is just different. So what works for one body doesn't necessarily work for another body. A few more deep breaths here, please. All right, so maybe keeping your eyes closed, all you're gonna do here to release down from this posture is lie all the way down and rest. Head might be on the backs of your hands or turn your head to one side. And again here, moving slowly. If by chance your head is to one side, I really want you to take your time to slowly move to the other side. All right, so as we come up from this posture, you have options. You took a rest. Maybe you come onto your hands and knees and just give yourself a little bit of time cat-cowing your spine. You can do whatever you want here. We're gonna move into more of the heart opener, and goodness sakes, we're gonna cross my fingers and hope that I'm trying not to waste your time, but give you options. So I am gonna suggest blocks. You might really like the bolster or stacks of blankets behind you, but I do like yoga blocks for this next posture. And I'm gonna put one block in between my shoulder blades. You can put it at the lower level. And then I always like to support my neck. So I'm gonna put a block behind to support my neck. I'm also gonna take a blanket and cushion this block. So this block is gonna go in between my shoulder blades. We are all built so differently. This is one option. So something, again, a bolster or perhaps blankets to elevate my lower legs. Block in between my shoulder blades. Relax down. Block to support my head. Open up my arms. And here we go. So This is chest, shoulders, and also just really helping to restore the curves in our spine. You know, that thoracic spine, we're like always rounded in, rather than easing into that chest opening and helping to establish more of that thoracic curve, because we're taking that curve out all the time too. So as you start to come back into your posture, you've got time. Like I said, some of us are thinking, blocks are too much, they're too hard, and you might start to resist that sensation. So you can take a couple of your blankets, especially if you don't have blocks. You can take blankets behind you and have a little bit of a softer cushion. Now your legs are up to you. You can support your lower legs. This, I think, feels really great on the hips and the low back, but you can always bring your feet together, knees apart. But the primary target area is I do want you to feel a stretch in your chest, into your shoulder joints. And think of it this way, eyes closed, please. A lift in the space behind your heart. Because again, we create a lot of our own stuff, and when we round in all the time and pull everything forward, we start to really tighten up the chest muscles and of course the connective tissue, but we can create all sorts of permanency in everything coming forward. And our connective tissue is going to pull us to the place where we're constantly going. And so to be open isn't the norm. It isn't normal for our everyday life to be open on the front side of our body, to be open within our digestive system, to feel everything just relax back, because this isn't the norm as far as how we work with gravity every day. Now, as you have more time in this posture, you might find your arms opening up, maybe floating up towards your head. Continue to allow yourself to feel supported in this posture. You have another minute to relax. You might feel different emotions coming up because, again, we're not normally in a posture where the front side of our body is open or exposed, perhaps a sense of vulnerability, and that might be a little uncomfortable at first. See if you can sit within that emotional discomfort. Please take one more nice, beautiful breath here. And then rather than sitting just straight back up, spread your fingers nice and wide and curl them in and let them relax. Roll out your wrists. This is an opportunity to move through the toes, roll your ankles. My suggestion is going to be allow yourself to roll off your props onto your side. Let your head rest for a moment on your bottom arm. And then nice and slowly press yourself up. Come to a seated position. So again, today for me, that seated position is going to be sitting on something, on blanket, a bolster, block, whatever. So hips are higher than our knees because this is going to allow for that gentle forward or anterior tilt in our hips. And our hips then aren't carrying our thighs. So in other words, if our knees are higher than our hips have to hold the weight of our thighs, which is eventually going to tilt our hips back to help with support. So just sit for a few moments. And we're going to do just a few movements with our neck because I do want us to be able to rest in a Shavasana. So just let your right ear drop towards your right shoulder. Now, again, for time's sake, I'm going to say hold this for longer than we are holding it now, but you're feeling that nice stretch along the left side of your neck. Breathing really deep, nice complete breath. So the inhale goes from the tummy to the rib cage up to the chest. The exhale goes from the tummy to the rib cage through the chest. Please remember to relax the muscles of your face because that's going to also in turn help to relax the muscles on the side of your neck. All right, let's gently tilt our chin up towards the ceiling. Maybe head drops back. I always say maybe because everyone's different, but what I want you to feel is that stretch now on the front left side of your neck. That muscle, I mean, there's a lot of muscles, but the SCM muscle, the sternocleidomastoid muscle, is a huge culprit in pulling our head forward and down. Let those shoulders soften down. Please take one more deep breath. Now I want you to take the slowest movement you can to start to tilt your chin towards your right collarbone. And now we're taking that stretch in the back left side of our neck. Wiggle those fingers and toes, soften your jaw. Again, as slow as you can, start to drop your chin, like slow, 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 chin to your chest. Now, as we drop our chin to our chest, I want you to ever so gently draw your shoulders slightly back and down. Nothing aggressive. Taking that stretch to the back side of our neck. So sitting up nice and tall, avoiding rounding in, just think of the cervical spine stretching through the back of your neck, not moving down through the rest of the muscles along your spine. Take another deep breath. As slow as you possibly can, rolling our left ear over towards our left shoulder. Where can you soften? So we're really concentrating on beautifully opening up through the right side of our neck. Scalene muscles there and so many other muscles that really get all jammed up and tight throughout our day. Let's take our time and ease our head just kind of slightly back and up. I think this one's really hard for me to cue. Gotta kind of move your head around a little bit, so now you're taking that stretch to the front right side of your neck. Take your time as you ease and rotate your head so your chin is dropping down gently towards your left collarbone. All right, rolling our chin down towards our chest, slow, slow, slow. And because it takes less muscular effort to exhale than it does to inhale, I'd like you to take a nice deep breath in. Long, slow exhale as you bring your head back up to neutral. Please keep your eyes closed or heavy. Now, I will cue if it's comfortable to let your head drop back, but I want you to inhale first, exhale to let your head go back. I personally do not like it, so I'm not going to do it, but some people really like that nice stretch on the front side and through the throat and just opening up there. Otherwise, just sit for a moment. So if your head's dropped back, of course you can keep any of these stretches you can keep for as long as you would like. But same thing, if your head's dropped back, I want you to exhale to bring your head back up to a neutral position. Eyes closed or heavy, and man, I just hope that you feel like you just like elongated your neck and like everything's just a little bit more open in that space. And then I'd like you to please relax into a Shavasana, or corpse pose. So many ways to do that too. If you like legs up the wall and scooting towards the wall, legs up, great. I like to support my lower legs on a bolster. I want to make sure the backs of the knees aren't stretching, and then maybe coming, putting a blanket on you, or I like a blanket on the midsection or the hips just for a little bit of weight. Close your eyes. Rest. Yes, even in Yin, we were not resting in Yin. We were creating, just like, as far as I'm concerned, magic in the body. And so now you want to just completely let go. can here, please, please keep your eyes closed or at least very heavy. Give yourself another deep inhale and exhale. And allow for your own movement, whatever that might be, whether it's starting with really opening up the fingers and toes and curling in. I think it is really important to move the joint systems of the wrists and the ankles. Whether you decide to take a full body stretch or anything like that, what I'd like you to do is really appreciate the movements that you're able to make. Maybe take a moment to appreciate how you feel at this moment. I'd like you to make your way back to a seated position. Take your time. Does not need to be cross-legged. It can be in hero's pose. It can be on a chair. It's whatever you want, however it's best for you to end your practice. But take these moments of gratitude for the fact that you are able to breathe, that you are able to move in whatever way that you have moved. Gratitude for yourself and for your abilities is extremely key, and it's really not something we do very often. So once you come to that seated position, I'd like you just to draw your hands into your heart center. So whether it's palms together, or maybe it's at your heart, right hand over left, it can be left hand over right. There's no right way. But I want you to take some moments of gratitude for yourself, for your heartbeat, for the breath you draw in, and for the breath you let go. So we're going to take some breaths here together. Soften your tummy, soften your insides, so everything drop. Take a nice, long, deep breath in through your nose. Suspend that life force in, open mouth, let it go. Suspend that life force out. Breath in. Pause. Let it go. Pause. One more here. Whether you're choosing palms to touch at your heart center or drawing your thumbs up to that third eye center. So just a couple of things here. First, give yourself a thank you, an internal thank you. And I want you to extend that thank you out to anyone. Send your love out to those around you, people that you are just acquaintances with, people that you love, people that you don't know. A moment of peace, love, compassion. As always, thank you for allowing me to guide you through this practice. And namaste. All right. Thank you for your time. Please do know if you're doing these practices, you can, of course, at any time pause the video and sink into the posture for a little bit longer. As again, my teacher says, 3 minutes does not a yin posture make. It takes roughly 90 seconds to really kind of feel things start to let go. But if ever you are moving towards any sort of pain, that is your cue. Stop. We're not moving towards pain. We're trying to create better channels of energy and communication within. When we create more communication within, we're going to communicate better with those around us as well. So as always, thank you. Namaste.